Well, I'd like to welcome you this morning to CSL Texas Hill Country. We're coming to you virtually um, via Zoom, and thank you for joining us this morning. I am Beth Warren, the spiritual leader here at CSL, and I will be giving the talk this morning. Our theme for the month of September has been living in harmony with life. And last week, we spoke about finding harmony in the midst of disharmony. And this week, we're continuing our conversation that we started last week, because we know that God is expressing harmoniously in all things, even when we're sitting in traffic or frustrated with a coworker, or maybe even frustrated with your minister, or reliving the events of national tragedy on the 6 o'clock news. The truth is, God is everywhere, and everything and everyone is holy, because it is all God. Now, I don't know about you, but I find myself sometimes feeling God's presence a whole lot more in some places than in others. For me, it is the water. You do not have to get me in the water, but I do love to sit on the beach and watch the waves come in. And as a child, sitting in a deer blind with my dad, listening to the sounds of nature, my dad always said that he felt closer to God riding on his tractor than he did sitting in the church. Or when you look at the face of a baby, especially when they are sleeping. Now, it's not so easy to feel the same way when you're reading the newspaper or sitting in the doctor's office waiting for a diagnosis. And do you realize that this week marks the 20th anniversary of a dark day in our history, 9/11? I'm sure you've been bombarded with the news media and the stories on the news. Who would have ever dreamed that someone would fly a plane into the towers? Not easy to see what's holy about that one, is it? And we really do not have to take it to extremes, because we can wonder about when we're paying our bills, or when you're going through your day-to-day routines, or as maybe you drive to work. You may listen to CDs to help you stay out of the frustration of the traffic. But again, whether we see it, sense it, or feel it, God is everywhere in all things. Therefore, everything is holy. And there's a lot of discussion on the minister's listserv about trying to understand the difference between taking the COVID vaccine and not taking the vaccine. If it is all God, there is no right or wrong, it just is. And sometimes we just can't wrap our human minds around this concept. But a fundamental tenet of religious science, or the New Thought organizations, and really all of the great religious teachings, is contained in the first statement of What We Believe by Ernest Holmes. We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one, indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. For God is all there is. And if God is love, then love is all there is. But let me refer you to some Bible stories. In Exodus, Moses is a young man, and he is out shepherding his sheep when he comes upon a bush that is burning but is not being consumed. And as he steps forward, the voice of God says, "Do not come near. Take the shoes off your feet, for this place on which you stand is holy ground." And then in the writings of Ralph Waldo Emerson, to the poet, to the philosopher, to the saint, all things are sacred, all days are holy, and all people are divine. Those who let God in, that is what we are called to do today. So today, this week, as we remember the events of this pandemic and other events that we label horrid, let's all remember that it is all God and everything and everybody is holy. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, and as a spiritual beings, we have life everlasting. We just change form. And I'm reminded of the words written by Neale Donald Walsch just days after September the 11th, 2001. He wrote this: "The hour has come for us to demonstrate at the highest level our most extraordinary thought about who we really are." And I believe we are being asked to do that again. And I love that the hour has come for us to demonstrate at the highest level of our most extraordinary thought about who we really are. And what is your most extraordinary thought about who you really are? About who your neighbor really is? About who the person across the world really is? About who the people are that suffer from COVID or fell victim to the floods and all of the things that are going on? Until we all begin to have and then demonstrate those extraordinary thoughts about who we really are, we will continue to have hatred and war and terrorism and destruction, bickering and fighting, and in our families, our work, our community, and gossip and betrayal in our relationships. We are all one. We are all one. But I'd like to share with you a chant and a meditation that I am doing right now to help relieve the pain of grief. And it's done in stereo. And in the right ear, the speaker is telling you how calm and resourceful you are. And in the left ear, he is telling this story in a very calm voice. There is an old story about a farmer. And one day his horse ran away. And his neighbors said how terrible it was. But the farmer said, maybe. A few days later, the horse returned and brought 2 wild horses with it. His neighbors rejoiced at his good fortune, but the farmer just said, maybe. The next day, the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses, and the horses threw him and broke his leg. And the neighbors all offered their sympathy, but the farmer again said, maybe. And the next week, the army marched into the village and press ganged all of the young men into the army. They rejected the farmer's son because of his broken leg, and the neighbors told him how lucky he was. And the farmer replied, maybe. And then there is the one voice telling you how resourceful you are and filled with love, and etc. And if we could just take the attitude of the farmer of maybe and realize that we do have the resources within to remain calm in the midst of chaos. But you come out of that meditation with a feeling of calm and peace. And, you know, we just recently had the 6-month anniversary of Tom's passing. And I will tell you, this meditation has helped me a lot. So just remember, if we could just be like the farmer and say, maybe. God is all there is. God is love, and love is all there is. At the core of each and every being. Mahatma Gandhi once said, when I despair, I remember that throughout history, The ways of truth and love have always won. There have been tyrants and murderers, and for a time they can seem invincible, but in the end, they always fall. Think of this. Think of this always. And think of how our nation pulled together like never before following 9/11. There were many poems and songs written during that time. And I really think this pandemic and all the things that are going on in our world today are calling for us to pull together, not only as a nation, but as a world. But I'd like to read one of the poems that I found written about 9/11. The author is a person by the name of Kim Davis. What I know is that God's presence is everywhere. What I know is that you and I and our loved ones are always wrapped in the arms of divine love. And what I know is that faith is more enormous and massive than the horrifying tragedy of this week. What I know is that there is already great healing and forgiveness and peace in my heart. And what I know is that I can depend on love. And what I know is that prayer is my power and my connection to all of life. And what I know is that I am loving you today and every day. Love is the answer. Not always easy. Not only our nation, but our world is being called to pull together and act as one. We're having a tough time of it right now. But if we choose to see everything as holy, if we choose to demonstrate, not just talk about it, our most extraordinary thoughts of who we really are, if we choose to live fully in the universe, then we must take a closer walk with God, no matter what. We are being called to listen to God for guidance. We are being called to listen to God for guidance. And I was going to have Diana play Just a Closer Walk with Thee. Dear God, if you please. And in Psalms 139, it says this: if I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there, thy hand shall lead me. God is all there is. And I'd like to close with a poem written by Cheryl Sawyer shortly after 9/11. As the soot and dirt and ash rained down, we became one color. As the firefighters and police officers fought their way into the inferno, we became one gender. As we carried each other down the stairs of the burning building, we became one class. And as we whispered or shouted words of comfort and encouragement, we spoke one language. And as we shared our talents and resources to find the lost, care for the wounded, and comfort the grief-stricken, we became one generation. And as we lit candles of waiting and hope, we became one family. And as we fell to our knees in prayer for strength, we became one faith. And as we gave our blood in lines a mile long, we became one body. And as we watched the images and stories unfold on television, we became one consciousness. And as we mourned and cried together, we became one soul. And as we proudly told and retold the stories of the sacrifice and the courage of heroes, we became one people. We are one color, one gender, one class, one language, one generation, one family, one faith, one body, one consciousness, one soul, one people. We are united. We are America. We are the world. We are one. with God, for God is all there is. And so it is.